you think that your life is or has been the way that you wanted it to be?
I think pretty much. Except when I lost my husband.
I'm
Didn't
sorry
like that
about
at
that.
all.
I know you didn't. That's
Yeah.
something
Other
that I
than
wish
that,
you could keep.
I've had a very nice life. I've been blessed.
That's good. Good. So are you proud of what you became or at becoming?
I think so. It took me a while to get where I was. When I was going to school, I did okay in school, but there were not a lot of scholarships, if any, really.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents couldn't afford to send us kids to college, so I went to work, went to night school, and became a therapist. And I was proud of that. I didn't want to get married until I was 25. I wanted to get everything, and I got married at 26.
Wow, and that's my age now, and I feel
Yeah.
like I'm still not ready for any of that stuff.
And don't be in a rush, because I waited, and I was engaged twice, but for some reason, I thought, no. Then I met that right one. And
That's
we were married
good.
50 years.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I've had a good life.
Good. So, do you think that you are doing what you want in life or doing what others wanted you to do in life?
I pretty much did what I wanted. I
Good.
think when you're married, though, you might have different aspirations than what you could really do.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was in the Marine Corps for 20 years.
Wow.
And so we were limited with time together sometimes, and things I wanted to do, I didn't have the time to complete it when he would come back from overseas. But basically, I did what I felt I was meant to do. So I'm satisfied.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Then I have one more question. Do you have any regrets, and would you change them or keep them?
No, not with things I could control. I don't think, and choices I made, I think I did okay.
Okay,
I think I did. I
cool.
wouldn't change anything.
Good. Okay, I lied. One more question.
Okay, that's all right.
Do you have any advice for anyone in particular? Anything you can think of?
We never had children. My husband was affected with Agent Orange, so we never had kids. But we're very involved with nieces and nephews and a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And I love to see kids do what you ask me to do, what they want to do, as long as it's in,
Yes, yeah.
common sense.
Yeah.
And I hope kids today will take the time, like yourself, to don't rush into even marriage. It's just too fast. And to really, if they don't feel like they want to go to college, or they don't feel like they could make it through college, we've had friends that had children and they wanted them to go to college, but the children weren't good students. Not that they didn't study, it just wasn't for them, or they didn't have the knowledge. Things came hard for them in school. So my husband would teach the boys mechanics. And we've had several boys to come by years later and say, wow, I'm glad you taught me that. And he makes a good living. Some are roofers, some are mechanics, others went to college and did well. But as long as you're satisfied in life, just do what you feel you want to do.
That's good.
Talk it over with your parents or whoever is your guardian. And it might seem not cool to do that, but it is. As you get older, you'll think, ooh, I wish I'd done that. So
Yeah.
that's what I would advise young people, to really take their time. Don't try to run with the crowd. Just do what you want to do, and especially be around people that hold your same values.
That's
You think
good.
it's cool maybe to go with the kid that's the most popular, but it's not the quality that you would really want yourself to be. So don't do that. Just be yourself. That's what I advise.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing
Well,
this
thank
interview
you.
with me. I appreciate it.
Hope it can help you.
It does.
And it gave me a chance to talk about a little of what I did, you know.
Do you think that your life is or has been the way that you wanted it to be?
That's a good question. Some of it has gone the way that I thought it would go, but some of it didn't. And I think a lot of that has to do with growing up. I'm 42 now, and when I was 17, I joined the Navy, and then I went on several different tours overseas. Wasn't married for a long time, and then I finally got married 15 years after I was in. I married late. So I was about 30 years old when I got married. So to answer that question, my plans were I was going to do 4 years and then get out and use the GI Bill. And I didn't do that. I stayed in and made it a career. And eventually what happened is I got married. So when you get married, your priorities change. And therefore, it no longer becomes about you. It becomes about the other person as well.
Uh-huh.
So basically, and that's I'd say across the board with a man and a woman. It's become more even keel nowadays, where both have to contribute to a marriage. It's not like it was back in the 50s or whatever, when just a man had to work and a woman stayed at home with their kids. In today's economy, you have to have two people working in order to sustain any kind of home. So, but my dream was to be an artist, actually, and I'm pursuing that now.
Good.
But I think that better late than never, they
True,
say. But
true.
Things didn't go quite the way that I thought it would go. So, if I was gonna give anyone advice about that, I'm like, make plans. Try to make plans. Try to set goals, small-term goals and long-term goals. But know that they might change because life happens.
True. So what do you think you should do if life does change? Should you still try to stay on your path, or should you just give up?
You should always stay on your path. I mean, no matter what happened to me in my life, I had faced a lot of different things. There was a point in time where I had an anxiety issue, where I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and I was having a lot of panic attacks. It was after about 32 years old, 33, and a lot of it was just unexplained, anxiety and that kind of thing. But later on, it was because I had found out that it was a traumatic event that had happened to me in the past that I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
So basically, I would say stay on the path that you're on and never deviate, but things can try to bring you down, whether it's mental illness, physical illness, whether it's your body changes, because over time your body changes. People think that, I don't look the same anymore, so
True.
I'm not as attractive, or I'm not, I think a lot of the problem in the United States, or in America, or the society of America,
Gotcha.
is that basically people are a little too self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And I think people need to look more within themselves and others when they're trying to find answers to any question, like whether it's spirituality or it's wanting to know where you're going to go in 5 years,
True. Okay, so are you proud of the person that you have became or is becoming?
I'm proud of who I am now, but I wasn't, a few years ago. And the reason I say that is because it's a process sometimes of growing through certain things. You have to kind of take a step back and then reevaluate what you did. And a lot of what I did when I was younger wasn't very good behavior. I was a heavy drinker for a while. I did a lot of I didn't do drugs, never really did any of that, but a lot of my life can, centered around, you're going to go work and then you're going to get off and then you're just going to drink.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the Navy way, the Navy military philosophy. And it kind of hurt me a little bit. I quit, doing that. So again, marriage is, a big reason why.
Mhm.
But also because like you realize after you stop doing those things, you stop going to the club on weekends and hanging out with those crowds of people,
Mm.
they forget about you and they don't really care too much about you.
Mhm.
And it becomes more about what you need to do to sustain yourself. Like what are you going to do from, what if you have a child, or whatever? What if unexpectedly, you become a parent?
Oh.
So what are you going to do to raise that child properly,
Mm.
and be a role model? So that kind of thing.
Okay. So you've kind of already answered this question, but I was going to ask, do you think that you're doing what you want in life, or do you think you're doing what others wanted you to do in life?
Well, okay. Sometimes you have to do what you need to do what you want to do. I don't know who quoted that, but I had heard that somewhere. And what I mean by that is that I took on a job that at first it was something I wanted to do because the military was something that I was like, okay, let's do it, because
Oh.
I was, living at home and I wasn't doing anything after I graduated. So I basically joined just because I wanted to get away and see the world.
Mhm.
But after a while, I was like, it had become a routine. I didn't really like the job anymore. I didn't really care for military life anymore. But I pushed through it because I knew that at the end, like once I retired, I would be able to do what I wanted to do. And it has paid off. I don't work anymore. I don't have to.
Mm.
My
That's
wife
cool.
still works, but I don't work anymore. At this point, I'm a full-time student, and they pay for it. And the reason is because I stuck it out. And sometimes I feel like, the younger generation needs to learn that you need to stick things out. You can't always like walk away
Oh.
from an adverse situation, whether it's the workplace, a person that you don't like. There's going to be people in life that you're not going to like, and they're not going to like you either. But what you do is you compromise. You try to compromise. And I think that that's a big part of the growing up experience. For me personally, it's been learning how to live with people in situations where I probably wouldn't have been able to live with them, otherwise.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. And one more question.
Okay.
Do you have any advice for anyone around the world or the U.S.?
Advice?
Yeah. And about
Specifically?
anything. About anything.
Well, right now, the way things are, this is my big pet peeve, and I'm just going to lay it out there. Social media is like a demon. It's not your life. It's like putting someone's life on display so that they can see certain aspects of what you are, but that's not who you really are. And what I would say is try to limit the amount of time you do that and do real things in life. Like today we're at the dog park. My wife and I came out with my dog, and I don't have my phone on me right now. I shut that stuff off. I'm trying to limit the amount of exposure to social media because I feel a lot of it it's just not very good for you, like mentally.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize what the issue was that I was having. A lot of the anxiety that I have is because of stuff that I see on the internet, in particular people that I know or people that I have known that I don't really know anymore. That's another thing too that really bothers me. I'm just going to leave you with this thought. If you haven't seen that person in like 10 years and they're like on your Facebook or whatever, Twitter, and you care more about what they're doing than you care about your own business or life, then something's wrong. You need to step back and think about that for a minute.
True. That
You
makes
know,
sense.
Is that really what you want? Or is that what we really want as a society?
Mm.
That's what I'd say.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
Is that good?
that was really good.